Welcome to the Education and Empowerment Podcast. In this show, our hosts explore success and advancement through education by interviewing today's top leaders in the fields of education, business, and technology in order to provide insight into what it really takes to succeed. This show is brought to you by Forstay, a SaaS-enabled online booking marketplace for student and intern housing. Forstay provides turnkey, all-in-one, cloud-based accommodation software solutions for colleges, universities, and organizations. Learn more at offcampus.forstay.com and landlords.forstay.com. All right, let's get into the show.
Welcome back to the Education and Empowerment Podcast. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with Wheatland, Wyoming rancher and businessman Jim Mathis, who purchased WyoTech in 2018, a top-notch training school that generates career-ready graduates for the growing demand for mechanics in the automotive and diesel industry. Since its purchase, the school has grown exponentially. As a former student, second-time president, and now CEO and owner, Jim Mathis knows firsthand the value technical training has, not only on the ranching industry, but on all industries across America. Throughout his career, Jim has supported technical training schools across the country. From him, we can learn how important it is for students to get hands-on experience in American industries, giving students a real-world understanding of how it all comes together. We hope you enjoyed today's episode with Jim Mathis.
Welcome to Education and Empowerment Podcast. This Monday afternoon, we are so thrilled and excited to welcome the founder and CEO of WyoTech to our podcast. WyoTech is this amazing organization that I've personally had a pleasure of meeting at one of the education conferences. And today I thought I would bring the founder and CEO to talk about the role of career colleges in addressing job market challenges so that we can learn the examples of leadership from the man directly. Without further ado, Jim, thank you for joining and welcome to our podcast.
Thank you, and it's my pleasure.
That's amazing. So can you tell us how you got into higher education in the first place?
Yeah, it's quite a story. I hated high school, and so I'm actually a dropout. I dropped out because I left home when I was 14 to work, and I loved working better than I did going to school. So eventually I actually quit my junior year, and they had promised me I could graduate, and they changed mine a month before graduation. So there's more to it than just quitting. They promised me I could graduate. Anyway, quit and then started driving heavy equipment. Started in Texas. We were custom combiners, and we drove trucks and combines and mechanicked on them. And then that winter I was driving semis and thought, and I was 17 years old, and I thought there would be nothing better than getting into owning a fleet of semis. So 2 years later, as an 18-year-old, a year and a half later, I went to WyoTech to learn diesel mechanics, thinking I was going to eventually own my own fleet of semis. And halfway through school, I ended up, one, loving school, and second of all, I had some amazing teachers. And because I was interested, they were interested in me, and that just sparked a new passion. And so after I graduated, I had a new passion, and that was to teach diesel mechanics and not just own semis. And so 5 months after I graduated, as a 19-year-old kid, I begged my way into teaching, which started a 26-year amazing career in the education field. 26 years the first go around, I should say. So yeah.
That's great.
So that's kind of how I fell into education.
That's amazing. And I love your story because, again, you hear about all these, big ventures and big companies, and it's all about, school dropouts for some reason. So I find it very, amusing at the same time. Now, for people who don't know the differences between, the career colleges and regular colleges, universities, can you shed a little bit more light on how they differ?
Sure. The easiest way I explain it, that most people should be able to understand, is there's a difference between training and education. We train people. So when they leave our school, they have competencies that they can complete on rebuilding an engine or welding or, upholstery or whatever. Versus education, most colleges educate. They really don't, those students really don't, they know a lot, but they really don't have the hands-on experience. And so for a career college, we give them the theory, but we also send them to the shop where they have to prove what they've learned in theory to make an engine run or a good bead on a weld or whatever the case may be. So there's a huge difference between training and education. And a career college does both. Most colleges just do the education part.
Yeah, I didn't think of, from that direction. People think, oh, well, both of them actually provide education, so they must be educating. So appreciate your explanation on, the training part of it, which I think is, very, very unique. Speaking of which, as you sort of looking at, today's job market, are you seeing any shortages in specific, skills or traits? What is the overview that you can provide on the job market, which again, I'm sure it's very interconnected to what you're producing at WyoTech as well?
Yes, I can speak directly to the kind of the automotive and diesel world, as well as welding and fabrication world, because that's what we deal in. And so we have more jobs and employers seeking our students than we can provide students for. And this is a national basis. WyoTech recruits students nationally.
Mm-hmm.
So only 5% of our students come from Wyoming. 95% comes from out of state. A typical student is a 19-year-old student that's traveled 1,000 miles to attend school. And because of that, we place students back in their state, their home state, or wherever they want to go, but most of them want to go back to their home state. So
Right.
We have a good feel of job opportunities on a national basis. And it's never been as great and lucrative for our students as it has been over the last 2 or 3, 4 years. And we do not see that slowing up. Everybody needs tradespeople. And so we feel like we have a great niche in the automotive and transportation world, as well as welding and fabrication world.
Wow. So if you were to sort of say, which one is more prevailing, could you identify maybe a one or two that's like really popular, like everybody wants to get into?
Well, as far as the programs we offer, our
Yes.
our two top programs are automotive and diesel. And then our specialty programs that they have to add one specialty program onto our what we call a core program. We have street rod building, we have chassis fabrication,
Mm-hmm.
we have associate degree in business management that the student can take, and then advanced diesel is very, very popular. And then we have trim and upholstery and rebuild and race engines, and that's pretty popular. So it's a mix depending on what the students' interests are. But once they get to Wyoming and to WyoTech, they'll wander the shops. The next thing you know, they're actually taking several of those electives in addition to the one that they signed up for originally. So we have about a third of our students take an additional elective just because it's so exciting they might have learned advanced diesel and then they want to learn how to do chassis fabrication or rebuild race engines in the automotive world. So it's a passion type deal, but it's also very lucrative on the job basis once they leave.
That's amazing. And, as you speak to so many different founders and, presidents and CEOs and, people in higher education, and here, oh, we have amazing business degree, or we have amazing economics degree, or we have amazing, computer science degree. It's very rare to hear, the type of specialties and traits that, what you're running at WyoTech. To which I was actually hoping that maybe, for the purpose of our, audience, you can share a little bit more about, WyoTech, as an example, as a successful example, and from your own stories of leadership. What is the overall philosophy as you were, building this venture for the higher education?
Yeah, WyoTech tries to emulate business.
Mm-hmm.
So we're a very unique school, again, in Laramie, Wyoming. But our students, again, a typical student on average travels 1,000 miles to attend school. Most of our students are 18 and 19-year-old students. We have some older ones, but typically it's 18 or 19-year-old student with their parents' support. So the parents are behind their son or daughter attending school. And what makes us very unique is, one is our location. The town is only 35,000 people, and we brag about that because it's the third largest town in Laramie, third largest town in Wyoming.
Laramie.
But some of the unique features of us is we go to school 8 hours and 20 minutes a day. So we emulate real work day.
Wow.
And so students, again, go to school 8 hours, 20 minutes a day. Our students are required to wear a uniform. They're required to follow an attendance policy. They're required to follow a professionalism code where they have to be clean shaven every day. And so because of that, we set them up for amazing success. And again, this is all explained to them and their parents when we go through the admissions process. So there are no surprises, or we don't want any student or parents to have a surprise. So we explain this. They actually sign an application and enrollment agreement stating, yeah, I understand the rules and regulations, and we're tough on attendance, we're tough on professionalism, and it's an encouraging basis. But what it does is now employers come in minimum every 3 months, and now they're seeing these students in uniform that have abided by attendance policies, and they can't get enough of our students because they know that they're used to working 8 hours and 20 minutes a day. They're used to some rules and regulations, and so they literally, employers come from all over the United States, including Hawaii. They'll fly in from Hawaii every 3 months, Alaska, Georgia, again, and many of them will fly their private jets in, and just to try to recruit our students because we are so unique and different than most trade schools or colleges.
That's really inspiring, Jim. Now, I wonder though, if, I am a prospective teacher, recruit me to your school. What is like, why is teaching different at WyoTech, and how is it different?
Yeah.
From
So
a teacher's perspective.
From a positive standpoint, and I'll start with the positive and then go to maybe the negative, is the positive is our teachers come from industry.
Right.
And we're always looking for teachers. So if people are hearing this and want to teach diesel mechanics or automotive or welding and fabrication, we're always hiring people. And so they're passionate about their trade. Most people, that they love what they do, whether it's welding, fabrication, but between age and a few bumps and bruises and everything else, they may want to teach for us. But they love to talk about diesel or cars or race engines or, welding and fabrication or whatever the case may be. So again, and most of our teachers come from out of state, come in and teach, but it is an 8 hour and 20-minute day job. Right. And so, but we share the load. So there's minimum of normally 2 instructors per classroom and shop. And so they share the load. And most of our teachers, in fact, all of them, I'd have to say, they're very passionate about seeing students learn. And so just like what happened and how it changed my life 45 years ago, I had a passionate instructor, several of them, and it literally changed my world. And so we are very picky about who we hire, but most of them are very passionate and they want to share their knowledge of what they've learned and the mistakes they made and the tricks of the trade to our students. And we just love that. And because we want to see our students succeed. Their success is our success. It's not our success, their success. It's our students' success is our success. So we are I think, one of the best out there in training students for the real world.
I mean, that speaks volume for, the type of standards I'm sure you've implemented to, to adhere to those levels. Is it easy to be a student at WyoTech? What does it take to be a student at WyoTech? What are the requirements for the students?
Yeah, the requirement is they have to have a high school diploma or GED, high school equivalency, and then they have to be interviewed by our admissions people, and their parents have to be, if they're underage, 24 years or younger, and single, they have to be, everybody has to be interviewed because we want to make sure it's a fit for them and us. So we don't claim to be all things to all people. So we aren't for everybody. They have to understand our differences and say, yes, I'm willing to accept those differences. And I see the value in those differences. I'm going to school 8 hours, 20 minutes a day and being clean shaven every day as an example and wearing a uniform. And if they see that we're truly trying to help them, then we go through the process of enrolling them. And then we work with, again, their parents and our financial aid department and everything else to see if we can't get them qualified with financial aid. And normally people have to bring some cash to the table as well. But we're very well organized, very techy behind the scenes. And so we try to communicate the good, the bad, the ugly, so there are no surprises. And because we are growing so fast, I think we're doing okay. I mean, we aren't getting a lot of students that come in and say, oh, I never knew about that. They know they're signing on the dotted line, that they understand what they're getting into from a financial standpoint, from a professionalism standpoint. and they love us. As a whole, students love it. In fact, just got off a earlier conference call, and our employees that work at WyoTech, we have a very high happy rate. We rate them every 6 months, or they rate themselves, and it's in the high 90s as far as the employees love what they do at WyoTech because they're training students that are passionate. Our people are passionate about seeing their success. And so it's an exciting place to be. So
I couldn't say even better than, what you just described. And, as I'm hearing from you, I'm really inspired, to know that you're running such a complex, very strong organization. And, you started describing, the bad and the ugly, so to speak.
yeah.
But you were to sort of reflect back to, your years of, service and leadership in this space. What makes WyoTech different? What are some of the challenges that you're seeing in running an educational, institution like this? And what are some of the successes that you want, your successors to know, or someone who's interested actually in running the same organization as yours?
Well, the big thing is leadership matters. I don't care if it's in a church, a family, a business, leadership matters. And I've got quite a history with WyoTech. I spent 26 years the first go around from 1976, and then as a student, and then started teaching in 1976 all the way up to 2002. And as a president CEO, I sold the company for a parent company in 1999. 3 years later, we sold it again underneath my leadership to a big, huge corporate company. I did not approve of them or like them or trust them and left. But during that period just before I became president, then president the first go around 1997, we were a beat down organization. We survived by stabbing someone else in the back.
Right.
And when I became president, I knew that we had to quit focusing on each other's faults and start having a bigger vision. And what was that vision? Well, we'd never been over 550 students. So we set a goal of 2,000 students by the year 2000. This is 1997, 98 timeframe. We achieved that goal a year early. So we did it by 1999. But we got focused. We got our employees focused on a goal and a vision, not necessarily on everybody's faults, because the faults will take care of themselves if everybody's pulling in the same direction, wanting to achieve the same goals. And so I'm a big fan of what is the vision for an organization and how are you going to lead them? And not that you're always going to achieve every single goal or vision or whatever, but if you're pulling together a team that cares about the vision and cares about each other, good things will happen.
Well, I'm really thrilled because, when you speak about vision, that's one of those moments, the art and the future state of mind, and that kind of unites everybody. So, your vision, your philosophy has, really impacted, the way you're running the organization, which kind of reminds me that, there's so much discussion these days about what the future is like for this industry and that industry. And since you are in sort of the, automotive industry, in one way or another, and, a personal example that I want to bring, DC quite recently had DC car show, auto show.
Yes.
And I was amazed at, the type of cars that came in, at the amount of cars and the new features and, the new sort of functionalities. They even integrated, artificial intelligence. You can talk to your car and, set your directions or, give you, translation of, this and that. And even for like Uber drivers have like several different languages that you can speak to. I just left speechless. Now, I wonder though, from your perspective, what is this big vision or what is this big future for, the industry you're in? And what are you preparing students for, I guess? Are they aligned? Are they catching up on all these, new developments or, yeah.
Yes, great question. And we try to stay within a couple of years of industry. So as the more technology is advanced and being put onto vehicles, we stay within 2 or 3 years normally of that, because we know that with new technology, there's a lot of warranty work. And so if we place our students with a dealership, they're going to want a graduate. And again, we only claim we have entry-level technicians. I'll put that out there. But they're going to want to hire a student that is a aware of the higher technology that's being placed into these vehicles.
Right.
So we don't rebuild engines anymore as far as in our automotive program. We do in our high performance engine, race engine, but for automotive, we don't. So we spend a lot of time on your technology of the computers in those cars. And even to include some EV electric vehicles, we don't have an electric vehicle. We have some hybrids right now, but we still touch on them. We just built a 90,000 square foot addition. We have 320,000 square feet total square feet, but we just completed 90,000 square feet for our new automotive shop. And in that, we put in charging stations for EV vehicles. And so we're pretty up to date compared to a lot of schools out there.
Wow. What makes the future from your, wisdom perspective? If you were to, consult and train, a few more gyms, so to speak, to run the same institutions, not in Wyoming, maybe in Iowa or, California or somewhere else, what would you tell them?
Yeah, one, it's a fun deal. I love challenges. I love growing businesses. I love building teams.
Amazing.
And I've always said
You're really good at that for sure.
Yeah, I'm not very smart, but I'm smart enough to hire smarter people than me. And so I come up with a vision and help set the standards of what we're going to live by. And then I find team members that say, yeah, I understand where you want to go. I think I can help you get there. Or I'm willing to, abide by the standards and hold people or employees or students, whatever, to those standards in a positive way, because it's a positive thing. It's kind of like law and grace in the Bible, So we want to show grace, but we have to have some structure on that. And so for leaders, one, come up with a vision, one, be able to believe in what they're offering.
Right.
I could never go run a company if I didn't believe in the product. I don't care if it's a car dealership or selling shoes. If I don't believe in it, you could pay me a lot of money, but I still probably wouldn't take the job. I am passionate about what we do because I see the end results and our success of our students and graduates. And it's very rewarding to me to see the Jim Mathises of the world that started off with nothing, a high school dropout, and then the lights come on, and now I can lead teams to provide some great people out there. And there's nothing better for me anyway than having a vision and building teams and seeing our students succeed.
I'm really inspired by the work that you do, Jim, and I can certainly see that there's a very huge role that WyoTech and similar institutions play in addressing, job market shortages. Like, I can't imagine, the world where you don't have technicians or you don't have, people who are skilled at providing these, such an important, industry related skills, right?
Yep.
Whether it's electrician or something else. I recently had a situation myself where I had to, fix our, washer and dryer, and I got stuck in YouTube trying to figure out how to fix this. And then, I ended up actually, finding a local service who, came by and fixed it in 5 minutes. I had spent, maybe like 3 or 4 hours. So what you're doing is very inspiring and very much needed. On behalf of Education and Empowerment Podcast, I wanted to tell you, thank you so much for, coming and for doing what you're doing. Our core founding team at Forstay very much believes in student success outside of classroom. That's the reason why we came up, and we, are thrilled to provide institutions like yours with a lot of resources for, setting up housing solutions. And, anywhere your students go, they success, as you said, your success, and vice versa. Yep. So thank you so much again for sparing your time with us this afternoon.
You're very welcome. It's my pleasure.
Amazing.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Education and Empowerment Podcast. This show is brought to you by Forstay, a SaaS-enabled online booking marketplace for student and intern housing. Forstay provides turnkey, all-in-one cloud-based accommodation software solutions for colleges, universities, and organizations. Learn more at offcampus.forstay.com and landlords.forstay.com.